Okay, now let's talk about funding. As we mentioned earlier, Austria has a great access to a lot of governmental funding to help you with R&D or even marketing activities. And the three big ones are AWS, Vienna Business Agency, VBA, or FFG. I think throughout your programs, you'll be introduced to some of the leaders there, and you'll be introduced to the details of the program. So what we want to focus on is pretty much from a client perspective. We applied to all three of them. We actually got one of them. And I want to share from our experience what is it like and the things to watch out for. With these grants, one thing I want to mention is that they are not 100% subsidized. Take FFG, for example. The government will put in 70% of your project cost, and you will need to put in another 30%. These percentages are different based on the programs you applied for or different agencies, but the general rule applies where you always need to put in some yourself in order to get the whole lump sum of the project. And let's go back to the FFG. The 70%, half of it will be free grant, the other half will be a business loan to your company. With these grant programs, they run jury meetings. Usually it's about 4, they run it quarterly, so there will be 4 jury meetings every year. And in the jury meetings, they will make decision whether the application will be approved or not. And the biggest 2 things about each of those programs, they are based in how innovative your technology is and also the business validity. I think business validity is very straightforward. You would have done it through your funding rounds in the past to showcase your current data and future projections. But the technical challenges and innovation is actually slightly counterintuitive. So in order for you to qualify for the technical innovation, the technologies has to actually be very risky. This is the counterintuitive part. It actually has to be risky because the rationale through that is that the government is actually helping you to do researches on technology that you would not otherwise do as a startup. So that's why they would fund you to do something outrageous, to try something that's purely innovative and has huge risk that you may run into it and things may not work out. Actually, more you can prove the technology is risky, the better it is with this checkbox. So throughout the application, you should basically nailing at those 2 points. It is, the business-wise, you've done enough marketing researches, you have a good cost planning for how to use the grant, and the other half will be you're actually introducing brand new innovative technology that has some level of risk. One thing that we want to mention really quickly is a term called de minimis. It's a European standard about how much free money you can take from the government in the last 3 years. The amount is 200,000, and not every single agency would trigger it. For example, FFG is not de minimis, but the 2 other agencies, AWS and VBAs are. This would limit your project size, and these 3 different grants are for different purposes. As you can see on the slides, FFG is more R&D focused, so they would like much more challenge and innovative technology rather than the business C part. So I think they fund mostly on research and development. VBA is Vienna focused, especially if your market is Vienna centric, they would be a great one for you. And then the AWS, my co-founder called it, is more businessy. It does actually cover not just the research and development, it covers some of your marketing costs, the cost of running the company. Have a look into them. I'm sure you get tons of help from the GYM program itself, but if you have any questions for us, we are happy to answer as well. So a bit of suggestion for you. We suggest you to apply all of them at the same time. you would be able to have meeting with them and then decide if one of them turns out to be the one that you would end up with taking. We also recommend you to meet them before you even want to apply. There's a contact point that you would get from the GYM program. Talk to the contact person, talk to them about your idea and what you have, what you want to do. They can really quickly tell you if they think this is a project worth going forward, or giving you suggestions that you may want to change your approach in terms of applying for the project. There are also agencies to help with application, but they do charge. And depending on your situations, you may want to use them or not use them. We can talk, if you have questions about this, you can talk to us about it. One most frequent questions we get asked is, can I get funding by not having a company set up in Austria? Can I be in New Zealand, Singapore, and then apply for a grant in Austria? No, these are not what the funds are for, right? I mean, what they are is basically helping local startups to build something, to base their IP here in Austria, and also help the business to really benefit the local employment and really help the local market. So straight no, if you're thinking of like, okay, we're just going to have a proxy company only just to get grants, don't even go there. It's very likely that you would not be able to get the grant. And to be really honest, I mean, when you really set up a company here, these grants are very helpful. These are the excessive amount of help that you would not have got from anywhere else in the world, because there's the government understanding your risk, understanding all these fantastic research you want to do, and then they're part of it. They're putting in extra money for you to help the business to thrive. So for our case, it took us about half a year until one of our grant is approved. We then hired employees. I mean, usually the government money doesn't come in one go. It usually have a different stage. For us, it's 50% first, and then 30%, and then 20%. Every step through the way, we have to report how we use the cost and how we succeed with our product development. And one thing to mention is that when you do your cost planning, you have to make sure you're hiring locally. Most of those funding would not fund you be using freelancers outside of Austria for the very same reason I was talking before. Same as what we talked about. The reason of this grant is to really help you help your company to hire locally. So it's definitely not there to utilize your development resource back in the home country. So when you do planning, it is actually for your Austrian company, and then think it that way. And I just want to say, at last, it should never be, can we get a grant? Then we will set up a company. That's the wrong process. You need to think, does it make sense for you to set up a company in Austria? And when you do, you will have these additional help you could apply for. So the grant should never be the decision making for you, whether you would start a company here. Okay, and we want to spend a really little time to talk about incubator and accelerators. Remember before, when we talk about red, white, red card, you get additional points to participate in one of those startup incubators. And as you can see on the slides, we have been through the GYM program. We have been to the Vienna Business Agency program. There's also We Accelerate. I think during your stay you'll see the collaboration space, but they have an accelerator program there. In it is a program that a lot of the local startup would use. So you get connection with a lot of potential customers, the ecosystem, and traditional businesses. All these things will help you not only to tick the box for your visa application, but most importantly, really creating more opportunities for you to gain exposures, for you to meet your potential client, to meet the collaboration partner, and so on. And for us, there's also the RBI program, which is a bank initiative program that usually fund, you have potential to have project with the banks. This is usually more relevant if you're in the banking, fintech, or payment field. So yeah, this is pretty much the end about the grant and the funding, and then we will summarize in the next section.